There comes a moment in life when a powerful person becomes silent. They stop explaining, they stop defending themselves, they stop trying to prove their worth. And sometimes they simply disappear. No announcement, no warning, no dramatic goodbye. People begin to wonder what happened. Why did they change? Why did they stop talking? Why did they walk away from everyone? But perhaps the better question is this. What if their silence is not weakness, but strength? We live in a world where people feel the need to respond to everything. Every accusation demands an answer. Every misunderstanding demands an explanation. Every rejection demands a reaction. We are constantly encouraged to speak, defend, prove, and be seen. But the person who has truly developed inner strength begins to understand something different. Not everything deserves your energy. Sometimes silence is the result of growth. When you become more aware of yourself, you begin to recognize how much energy is wasted trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand you. You realize that arguing does not always create clarity. Explaining yourself does not always create respect. And being constantly available does not necessarily make you valuable, so you become quieter. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally understand that your peace is worth protecting. Powerful people often disappear when they no longer need external validation. They don't need everyone to know where they are going. They don't need applause for every step. They don't need to announce their transformation. They simply work. They observe, they learn, they rebuild. And while the world is busy asking, where did they go? They may be becoming someone the world has never seen before. This is the psychology of silence. Silence can create distance, but it can also create perspective. It gives the mind space to separate what truly matters from what merely makes noise. So if someone powerful suddenly becomes distant, don't immediately assume they are broken. Perhaps they are healing. Perhaps they are thinking. Perhaps they are protecting their energy. Or perhaps they have reached a stage in life where they no longer need to be understood by everyone. And if you have recently felt the desire to step back from people, to become quieter, to disappear for a while and focus on yourself, don't be afraid of that transformation. Sometimes you must leave the noise to hear your own mind. Sometimes you must step away from the crowd to discover your own direction. And sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not what you say, but what you choose not to say. In this video, we will explore why powerful people suddenly disappear, what silence reveals about the human mind, and how stepping away from the world can sometimes become the beginning of your greatest transformation. Because when you stop chasing attention, you may finally discover your power. One of the clearest signs that a person is becoming mentally stronger is that they slowly stop needing validation from other people. In the beginning, most of us live with a deep desire to be accepted. We want people to like us, understand us, praise us, notice our efforts, and recognize our value. We look outside ourselves for confirmation that we are doing well. When people applaud us, we feel confident. When they criticize us, we begin to question ourselves. When someone ignores us, we wonder what we did wrong. This constant dependence on external approval can quietly control our lives. But there comes a point when something changes. You begin to realize that you cannot build a peaceful life around the opinions of other people. There will always be someone who misunderstands you. Someone will criticize your choices. Someone will doubt your ability. Someone may even judge you without knowing your story. If your confidence depends on everyone agreeing with you, then your confidence will always be fragile. A powerful person learns to separate self-worth from public approval. This does not mean becoming arrogant or believing that nobody matters. It means understanding that your value does not increase because someone praises you, and it does not disappear because someone rejects you. You begin to listen to advice without becoming controlled by it. You accept criticism without allowing it to destroy your identity. You appreciate compliments without becoming addicted to them. And this is where silence begins. You stop explaining every decision. You stop announcing every goal. You stop telling everyone what you are planning to do. You stop trying to convince people that you are changing. Why? Because you realize that your actions can speak more clearly than your explanations. When you are no longer desperate for validation, you become much harder to manipulate. People cannot easily control you with praise because you don't need their approval. They cannot easily destroy you with criticism because you know who you are. They cannot easily pull you into arguments because you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. This is why some people suddenly become distant. They are not necessarily angry. They are not necessarily weak. They may simply have reached a stage where protecting their inner peace has become more important than winning every conversation. They understand that attention is a form of energy. Every argument consumes energy. Every unnecessary explanation consumes energy. Every attempt to impress someone consumes energy. Every moment spent wondering what others think can take you away from the work you should be doing. So they become selective. They speak when speaking has purpose. They remain silent when silence is wiser. They walk away when staying would only create more chaos. And they stop measuring their progress by how many people notice them. Think about a person who is truly committed to changing their life. They don't need to tell everyone that they are becoming disciplined. They simply wake up and practice discipline. They don't need to announce that they are becoming stronger. They quietly endure difficult days. They don't need to tell everyone that they have changed. Eventually, their behavior becomes the evidence. Real growth often becomes quieter. The less you need to prove yourself, the more freedom you gain. You no longer spend your life performing for an audience. You begin living according to your values instead of according to other people's expectations. And perhaps this is one of the deepest forms of power, being able to walk into a room without needing to be noticed, walk away without needing to be chased, and continue your journey without needing anyone to understand it. Because when you stop asking, "Do they see my worth?" you begin asking a much more important question. Am I becoming the person I respect? That question changes everything. It shifts your attention from appearance to character, from approval to purpose, and from noise to inner discipline. And once you discover that your peace does not require everyone else's permission, you may naturally become quieter. Not because you have lost your voice, but because you have finally learned that your life does not need to be explained to everyone. There is a point in life when you begin to understand that not every person deserves unlimited access to your energy. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely exhausted. You can spend hours talking, explaining, arguing, helping, and listening, yet at the end of the day feel as if you have moved nowhere. This is why some powerful and disciplined people suddenly step back. They are not necessarily running away from life. They are creating space to understand it. Your energy is limited. Your attention is limited. Your time is limited. And every time you give these things to something meaningless, you have less available for what truly matters. Many people never learn this lesson. They answer every message immediately. They involve themselves in every argument. They feel responsible for everyone's emotions. They constantly check what others are saying about them. They enter conversations that have no purpose and relationships that repeatedly disturb their peace. Eventually, the mind becomes crowded. And when the mind becomes crowded, clarity becomes difficult. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step away. You don't have to announce your departure. You don't have to create a dramatic explanation. You can simply become less available to what drains you. You can stop participating in unnecessary conversations. You can spend more time alone. You can turn down invitations. You can protect your mornings, your evenings, your concentration, and your peace. This is not about hating people. It is about understanding yourself. There are people who inspire you, and there are people who constantly pull you into negativity. There are conversations that teach you something, and there are conversations that leave you emotionally exhausted. There are environments that help you grow, and there are environments that keep reminding you of an older version of yourself. A wise person learns the difference. When you withdraw from unnecessary noise, something remarkable happens. You begin hearing thoughts that were previously buried beneath constant stimulation. You begin noticing what you actually want. You begin recognizing which relationships are genuine and which ones were based only on convenience. You begin understanding which goals belong to you and which goals were created because you wanted to impress someone else. Solitude can reveal truths that noise hides. This is why disappearing for a while can sometimes be an act of discipline. You are not trying to make people wonder where you are. You are trying to become clear about where you are going. Maybe you need time to rebuild your confidence. Maybe you need time to recover from disappointment. Maybe you need time to work on your body, your mind, your career, your relationships, or your character. Whatever the reason, you don't need to broadcast the process. Some transformations require privacy. A seed does not announce when it begins growing beneath the soil. The work happens when nobody can see it. Only later does the result become visible. Your life can be the same. There may be seasons when you need to disappear from unnecessary attention so you can focus on becoming stronger. You may need to distance yourself from people who only know how to consume your energy. You may need to stop explaining yourself to those who have no intention of understanding you. And during that silence, you may discover something important. Peace is not found by controlling everyone around you. Peace is found by becoming more intentional about what you allow into your mind. Protecting your energy does not mean building walls around your heart. It means building doors and learning when to open them and when to keep them closed. Because when you stop giving your attention to everything, you finally have enough attention for the things that can change your life. Your silence becomes space, your distance becomes clarity, and your solitude becomes the environment where discipline, self-awareness, and purpose can grow. There is a kind of strength that does not need to raise its voice. It does not argue, threaten, explain, or demand attention. It simply observes. In a world where everyone wants to respond immediately, the ability to remain silent can become a rare form of self-control. Most people react before they think. Someone criticizes them, and they immediately defend themselves. Someone insults them, and they respond with another insult. Someone misunderstands them, and they rush to explain. Someone tries to provoke them, and they feel compelled to prove that they cannot be disrespected. But what if you didn't react? What if you simply paused? That pause can change everything. Silence creates a space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. In that space, you regain control. Instead of allowing another person's words to control your emotions, you give yourself time to understand what is actually happening. This is why silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence means, I have nothing to prove. Sometimes it means, I understand what is happening, but I will not allow it to control me. And sometimes it means, my peace is more valuable than winning this argument. A person who has developed self-control understands that every battle does not deserve their participation. There are arguments where both people are simply trying to be right. There are conversations where explaining yourself only creates another opportunity for misunderstanding. There are situations where the best response is to leave rather than continue speaking. Powerful people learn to recognize the difference. They don't become silent because they are afraid of confrontation. They become selective because they understand the cost of unnecessary confrontation. Words carry energy. Once spoken, they cannot always be taken back. A sentence said in anger can damage a relationship. A careless response can create a conflict that lasts for weeks. A moment of emotional reaction can create consequences that remain long after the emotion has disappeared. Silence gives you time. Time to breathe. Time to observe. Time to ask yourself, is this worth my attention? That single question can protect you from countless mistakes. Imagine someone trying to provoke you. They expect an emotional reaction. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to become angry, but instead you remain calm. You listen. You say nothing unnecessary. You walk away. Suddenly, they have lost the ability to control the direction of the situation. Your silence has communicated something stronger than an argument could have communicated. I choose my response. But silence should not be confused with suppressing emotions. True inner strength does not mean pretending that nothing hurts. It means learning how to process your emotions without allowing them to make every decision for you. You can feel anger without becoming aggressive. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can feel hurt without seeking revenge. You can disagree without becoming disrespectful. This is emotional discipline, and emotional discipline creates a different kind of presence. You become harder to provoke because people realize that their words cannot easily pull you away from your center. Eventually, you stop responding to every message, every rumor, every opinion, and every accusation. You begin choosing your words carefully because you understand that silence can sometimes communicate more than 1,000 explanations. Not every person needs access to your thoughts. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Sometimes the most mature response is to let people believe what they want while you continue living according to your values. Let your consistency speak. Let your character speak. Let your actions speak. Because when your life is aligned with your principles, you don't need to spend every day defending yourself. And perhaps that is the deeper psychology of silence. When you become comfortable with your own truth, you no longer feel desperate to convince everyone else of it. You become calm, you become patient, you become deliberate, and your silence stops being an absence of words. It becomes a conscious choice, a quiet expression of self-mastery. There are moments in life when transformation requires distance, not because you are giving up on people, but because you are finally choosing to give more attention to the person you are becoming. Sometimes the old environment cannot understand the new direction of your life. The old conversations no longer inspire you. The old habits no longer satisfy you. The old version of yourself begins to feel like a place you have already outgrown. And this is why some people suddenly disappear. They are rebuilding themselves quietly. Real transformation is rarely as dramatic as people imagine. Most of it happens in ordinary moments when nobody is watching. It happens when you choose discipline instead of comfort. It happens when you wake up early even though you don't feel motivated. It happens when you keep working after the excitement disappears. It happens when you stop chasing people who do not value you. It happens when you finally confront the habits, fears, and weaknesses that you once avoided. Nobody sees these moments, but they change you. When someone is preparing for a new chapter, they may naturally reduce their presence in the outside world. They become less interested in proving what they are doing and more interested in actually doing it. They stop announcing their goals because they understand that attention can sometimes become a distraction. Instead of saying, I'm going to change my life, they begin changing it. Instead of saying, I will become stronger, they train. Instead of saying, I will become successful, they develop skills. Instead of saying, I will become disciplined, they practice discipline when nobody is watching. This is the difference between wanting transformation and living transformation. There is also a psychological reason why people sometimes need solitude during major change. When you are constantly surrounded by the expectations of others, it becomes difficult to hear your own thoughts. People may remember who you were and unconsciously expect you to remain that person. They may become uncomfortable when your priorities change. They may question why you are quieter, why you no longer attend every gathering, or why you are no longer interested in the same things. But growth often requires disappointing the expectations of people who knew your old identity. You cannot become a new version of yourself while constantly trying to remain comfortable for everyone else. Sometimes you have to accept being misunderstood. You have to accept that some people will call your distance arrogance. Others may call your silence strange. Some may assume you are struggling. Others may assume you think you are better than them. Let them think. You do not have to interrupt your transformation just to correct every assumption. Your responsibility is not to make everyone understand your journey. Your responsibility is to walk it. Think about a mountain. From a distance, you see only the peak. You don't see the thousands of small steps that created the climb. Human transformation is similar. People often see the result and call it sudden. They say, "You changed so much." But the change was not sudden. It was built quietly. It was built through countless decisions that nobody noticed. So if you are entering a season where you feel the need to step back, reflect, and focus on yourself, don't automatically consider it loneliness. Sometimes solitude is preparation. Use that quiet time wisely. Read, reflect, train your mind, strengthen your character, work on your purpose, remove unnecessary distractions, become comfortable with your own company. Because when you stop needing constant attention, you create room for genuine growth. One day, people may notice that you are different. They may ask what happened. They may wonder why you became calmer, stronger, more focused, and less reactive. You won't need a long explanation. Your life will answer for you. The person who disappears for the right reasons does not disappear forever. They return with greater clarity, stronger boundaries, deeper discipline, and a clearer understanding of who they are. They were not hiding. They were building. And sometimes the most powerful transformation happens when nobody is watching. Maybe now you understand why some of the most powerful people suddenly disappear. They don't always disappear because they are defeated. Sometimes they disappear because they are done proving themselves. They step away from validation. They protect their energy. They choose silence over unnecessary reactions. And sometimes they withdraw because they are becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than they were before.
Remember this.
Not every disappearance is a loss. Sometimes it is a transformation. There will be seasons in your life when you need to step away from the noise. You may lose connections. You may become quieter. You may spend more time alone, and people may not understand what you are doing. That's okay. You don't need everyone to understand your silence. You don't need everyone to approve of your distance. And you don't need to announce every battle you are fighting within yourself. Sometimes the greatest work you will ever do happens in silence. So if life is pushing you into a quieter season, don't be afraid of it. Use it. Let the silence teach you. Let solitude strengthen you. Let discipline rebuild you. Let your actions become louder than your explanations. Because one day you may look back and realize that the period when you thought you were disappearing was actually the period when you were finding yourself. And here's the final question I want you to carry with you. If you stopped seeking everyone's approval today, what could you finally become? Think about it. Maybe your next chapter doesn't need an audience. Maybe it only needs courage. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this message gave you a new perspective on silence, strength, and self-mastery, make sure you stay connected to the channel for more powerful lessons on discipline, psychology, inner strength, and personal growth. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and remember, you don't always need to speak to prove your strength. Sometimes your silence is the proof that you have found it. Until the next video, stay disciplined, stay focused, protect your peace, and keep becoming the person you were meant to be. Your transformation doesn't need to be announced. Let your life reveal it.